Yes, this is John G. Sutton, and welcome to Tales from the Jails. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about when I was a hospital officer at HMP Strangeways, as it was known in those days. And this is going back to the year around about 1982. Anyway, I was the officer in charge of A1 Landing Clinic. Now, A1 Landing Clinic is where inmates, the entire adult male population of Strangeways, would go to A1 Clinic if they were sick or if they were on medication, and they'd be seen there by initially by a hospital officer, i.e., myself, and then subsequently by a doctor at the morning sick parade. So if you weren't feeling well on the landings, you could report sick, and you'd be sent down on the sick parade, unlocked and brought down by a discipline officer, and sat down on A1 landing right at the top, near the steps going down from the rotunda. The rotunda being right in the middle of the prison. You were brought down A1 landing, sat down there in seats, little wooden seats, in front of the clinic, and inside the clinic was a hospital officer in a white tunic. Yeah, and that would be me in 1982, 83, that area. Yeah. So anyway, one day I was working on the clinic with the doctor, and I'd always seen the inmates and ascertained that they did need to see the doctor. You know, it wasn't just a simple thing as administering an aspirin or something like that. It wasn't something as simple as that. They were actually required to see the doctor. So I was standing with the doctor. Inmate comes in, gives the name to the doctor. Doctor says, right, what's wrong with you? You know, standard procedure. It's just like going seeing your own doctor, except standing next to the doctor or in the same room as the doctor was a hospital officer, and that was me at the time. This particular doctor was a real character. You know, he was slightly eccentric, I would say, to put it mildly. So you get this prisoner in, and this prisoner complains of pains in his stomach, in his lower stomach, and said he think he was constipated, and he wasn't certain what was wrong, but he was experiencing a great deal of pain. So this doctor says to him, seriously, this doctor says to him, take your trousers down, take your underclothes down. He said, I'm going to examine you internally. And he got a rubber glove out, put a rubber glove on. He got some Vaseline or whatever it was, yeah, Vaseline I believe it was, and bent this inmate, didn't lie him down, bent this inmate over in front of him, got his rubber glove and inserted his fingers into the man's rectum. And this guy's bent down. I'm standing there next to him, and he says to this guy, seriously, the doctor says to him, he said, tell me, he said, are you a practicing homosexual? And the prisoner says, no. He says, listen, I'm sure you must be. He said, because there's a lot of room in here. He says, it's very, very spacious. Imagine saying that to some poor bloke, yeah? He's got him bent down with his fingers up his backside, yeah? What a strange character. Anyway, they gave him whatever it was and sent him on his way. Uh, the doctors, if they needed treatment, you know, say that guy needed an enema or something like that, he would just write it down. And at the end of the consultations, when he'd seen all the prisoners, you know, all the treatment was left for me to administer, whether it be injections or whatever it was. And there was one guy came in and he had terrible problems, and the doctor said, Mr. Sutton, treat this with acid. Yeah, wrote it all down. Because he called me Mr. Sutton, you know, he didn't know my first name. Yeah, it's alright, I'm a happy guy, you know. Not there to make friends, you know. Anyway, doctor'd gone, and the people who were down for treatment were told to wait outside, and I'd see them one at a time. You know, there were things like, as I say, enemas, or they needed medication or whatever he prescribed for them. And this particular inmate, he'd prescribed acid, and it had to be painted on this guy's problem. That was probably the nastiest job I ever had. Or well, certainly it ranked in the top 10, let me tell you that. Because the guy that I was treating had what's known as anal warts, yeah? He had been practicing sexual relations with various men in many prisons up and down the country, and had managed to contract a sexually transmitted disease that was had affected his rectum, and hanging from his rectum was a great bunch of horrible black and brown warts, to such the extent, this was causing him a great deal of personal problems, which we won't go into. But anyway, my job for the next week or so was each day this guy came down to the A1 clinic, and I had to get this bottle of acid. I don't know if it was sulfuric acid or what a certain acid it was that the doctor had prescribed. The clinic made it up, and the pharmacy made it up and provided it to me, and I had to get a little dabbity dab and paint this onto the end of his anal warts, which was not an edifying experience. But that's what you get if you're a hospital officer. That's another strange thing. I was in the clinic and I heard a banging on the door, because I kept the door locked, when I was in there, because I was sorting out the medication for the entire people who were medicated, things like Largactil and chlorpromazine and all the rest of it. So this guy banging on the door, and two inmates at the door, and they said, we need your help, I said, all right, okay, what's the problem? He said, he's got his dick stuck in the zip. I said, all right, send him in. So this guy came in, and sure enough, I mean, as blokes, I'm sure at some time or other, if you haven't done it yet, you will do before you get to be 80. Yeah, you'll get your dick stuck in the zip. Well, this poor bloke, I nearly said poor bastard then, but this poor bloke, he got his todger right. It was properly jammed in, and he was in absolute agony. So I thought, I've got to deal with this. Yeah, got myself a pair of scissors and cut round the guy's trousers, cut round his thing, so the trousers were off. All that was left was the zip, Then I just got hold of the top of it, like that, and ripped it off. You've got no choice, really, have you? I mean, you can't cut the zip away. I couldn't do it, So anyway, that's what I did, and this guy took his rather... I'll give him a plaster for his dick, It was a little bit cut. It wasn't deeply cut, but I mean, when you get that in it, it can be quite tender, as I'm sure all you gentlemen know. Yeah. Right. Anyway, that was just one experience. Yeah. Some strange experiences down there, I tell you. Anyway, one day we got a guy come in, brought into the hospital. It wasn't A1 hospital on the clinic. No, it was the main hospital. He was brought in, and he was a great big. He was huge. Have you ever seen the Green Mile? Anybody? The guy in the Green Mile, the big black fella. He was like that, about 6'7", absolute muscles, like great big muscles, great big black chap. I don't know what he'd done, but some people, he wouldn't say who it was, they'd grabbed him, held him down, and got a razor and sliced him all over, sliced him. Chest, back, arms, legs, down his sides, in his buttocks. He must have had about 100 slices taken out of him. And the doctor saw him and said, just get me 2 hospital officers and stitch this man up. So we got, myself and one of my colleagues, we got needles and stitched this guy up. Hey, he looked like a jigsaw puzzle by the time we finished. Hey, he would never say who did it. I think what had happened was he'd started to throw his weight around with the drug barons or the tobacco barons, whoever they were, and they'd teamed up on him and done a mob effort. If you get 5 blokes holding you down, usually it'll do the job if they've got a rough idea what they're doing. And of course, once they've got him down, then they sliced him up. We never heard much from him again, He didn't get infected. I mean, we properly cared for him as best we could. There was one guy came down. I was on A1 landing, yeah, A1 landing again, and he came down to be weighed. Some inmates had to be weighed, and he took one look at me. Says, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Excuse me." "Ah, yes." And it was a man who lived in the same street as me, believe it or not, lived a bit further down. And I said, "I take it you're an inmate, aren't you?" He said, "Yes, I am." I said, "Well, let me weigh you. What do you want to do?" I said, "I am a hospital officer. I didn't know you worked here, you know." I said, "I'm pleased that you didn't." I said, "But now that you know, and I'm here to conduct medical tests on you, one of which being I'm going to weigh you. You know, stand on the scales and we'll annotate your medical records, and you can go from there." So anyway, off he went, mumbling and grumbling, a very unpleasant character. And it would be about 4 months later. I never saw this man really. He was just down the street a bit. And his wife came out of her house one day when I was walking the dog. I took my dog out for a walk near where I lived. And she started shouting abuse at me. "You murdering bastard, we know all about you." Apparently some inmate had died and I'd attended, you know, which I did. I mean, I did quite a few. My fault, you know. "We know you murdered them." I haven't murdered anybody. I attended sudden deaths, which in places like prisons happen, you know. Send for the hospital staff. Hospital staff go. That's what happened. Anyway, I said, "Listen, don't be stupid. I'm gonna get..." His name was Jed. "Yeah, I'm gonna get Jed to see you." I said, "Listen," I said, "you tell Jed if he's got a problem." That was the name of the prisoner we had weighed, you know. "So if he's got a problem, pop round and I'll slap his ass for him." Anyway, I thought nothing more about it, you know. I just thought that would be the end of that. If you got any sense, stay away, you know. No, not this guy. About an hour after I'd told his wife, or whatever she was, this knocking on my front door, who was there but Jed, the inmate. Now, he was a notorious bastard. He'd been extracting money from people by tying them down to ropes and knocking the ropes into the ground, spragging them out, we called it, you know, and then pouring petrol over them and threatening to burn them to death if they didn't pay him money. He was quite a considerably dangerous man, and he'd been threatening some of the neighbours with an axe, going round with this axe. "You don't do this, you come anywhere near my house." And in his gardens around his house, he had 17 scrap motor vehicles, scraps, and he had a truck with a crane on the back, and he used to lift them up and drop them on top of each other all round his house. At the back of his house there was about 10, at the side of his house, a load at the front of his house, about 17 altogether. Anyway, he turned up at my door. "I know all about you. What's this about slapping my ass?" I said, "I've told you. Stay away from me." I said, "and I am now going to count to 3. And if you haven't got yourself off my premises by the time I get to 3, I'm going to give you the best hiding you've ever had." I went 1, 2, and I hit him as hard as I possibly could. Boosh! Straight at the side of his face. I didn't use my fist. I don't want to injure him. Just want to make sure that he understood, you know, that he was in the wrong place with the wrong man. Well, I must have hit him that hard. He spun round. He spun round, staggered back, and fell flat out in the middle of the road. I had quite a big garden too. It must have been quite a smack. And I shut the door. And Mary, my wife, who was watching television, said, "What the hell was that?" I said, "That was the sound of Jed hitting the floor." Oh my God. Anyway, I thought no more, but you know, you don't really, do you? I mean, shut the door, got on with it. About an hour later, bang bang on the door, the police. The police, imagine that, coming round to my house. "Come in, officer, sit down, how can I help?" Accusing me of hitting this man. I can't possibly, I mean, my recollection maybe a little bit better now, but at the time, as I recollected it, I had no idea as to how this man had been hit. And the police officer said to me, "But Mr. Sutton," he said, "if you didn't hit him," he said, "how did he get that big handprint right across his face?" Oh, imagine that. I didn't know. Did you have any ideas? What a strange world it is. Tales from the jail.